Namaskar. Very warm welcome to all our viewers and learners in this live phone-in session of CIT and CRT. I'm Renu Bhatt with you all, and you are watching us live on eVidya channels, channel number 12, and on our NCERT official YouTube channel as well. Dear learner, this is our live interactive session that is specifically we bring for you, and the topic that we are going to discuss today in this specific session is writing skills, and this is for English 12th standard students. So what are writing skills? Is it God gifted, or you can achieve that with lot of tips and important guidance? We have our expert with us, and let's meet her. You are Miss Charu Gaur. You are PGT English from New Delhi. Very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Pleasure is all ours, man. And before we begin this session, let me share some certain information with all our viewers and learners in case you have any query or want to know more about writing skills, how you can achieve that. And with all your queries and doubts, feel free to connect to us through our various medium. You can call us on our telephone number, that is 8800 Either you can drop a mail at our email address, that is dth.class12@ciit.nic.in. And dear learner, apart from all those mediums, you can join us through our live streaming. That means you have to go to our YouTube channel, that is NCERT official. Then you have to go to the live chat box, and then you can drop your comment out there. Our expert will be happy to answer all your queries and doubts if you have any. And before I begin this particular session, let me share a very important piece of information with you all regarding India's G20 presidency. We are indeed very proud that India assumed G20 presidency and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in the country in 2023, a nation that deeply committed to democracy and multilateralism. India's G20 presidency would be a watershed moment in her history as it seeks to play an important role by finding pragmatic global solutions for the well-being of all. And in doing so, manifest the true spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or we can say the whole world is one family. With that very important piece of information, let's quickly get back to the session, and we are going to discuss today about writing skills. So ma'am, what specifically do you have for our learners for in this session? What is the content, ma'am?
Thank you, Renu, for the lovely introduction. And by writing skills, we mean that we are going to talk about the four important aspects of learning any language. So, learning any language involves listening, speaking, reading and writing, all followed in the correct sequence and the level of difficulty. When we say listening, child learns when he listens in his environment, which leads to speaking, reading and finally writing. So, as I said, writing in the end, this is one skill which really needs a lot of practice, and children find it to be a little challenging also. I'm sure we all have a lovely expression when we talk in our mother tongue. One, we have to express the same things in a foreign language, which is English. We have to be a little more prepared. So, talking about the fourth important writing skill today. The class is class 12, but it goes without saying that these tips can be used by anyone. We do not want to close them in watertight compartments because these tips are universal. We can use them while talking too, but we need to formalize things and go stepwise. So, today we are going to talk about tips for article writing. Students and teachers, my dear audience, you all are aware of the fact that when we talk about the writing skills, we are talking about the section B of the question paper. So, the syllabus for class 12 under writing skills is actually about preparing the child to write a few short pieces of writing, which are creative writing as well as official writing, and also some long pieces of writing. When we talk about the long pieces of writing, we talk about skills like debating, writing an article, writing a report, writing a letter, etc. Today, we are going to talk about article writing. Now, when I say article writing, then I can also add to this that this could be a newspaper article or an article in a magazine. Well, one day before before writing an English exam, most children think that, well, what is there to prepare? What do I have to learn about? Writing is all about, on the spot. I get the question paper and I will be able to write whatever I can do at that moment. So, the thinking time will start only after receiving the question paper. But the question is, can we prepare ourselves for that writing task beforehand? So, just to make the task easy and to reduce your thinking time during an examination, we have devised a few lines. Now, these are, as Renuji has already told the students, these are tips for article writing. Now, when we start writing an article, I've often noticed that children just go into deep thinking modes. How do I start writing the article? If I was able to begin, I think I would be able to get through. So, the first line is the most challenging one, right?
Right. So, ma'am, here I just need to ask you a question. The particular guide to the writing section is about article, right? So, can we also have something to help the students with the short piece of writing articles, ma'am?
Well, when we say short pieces of writing, we imply the notice writing, or we imply, short pieces like invitations. And the answer to your question, Renu, is yes. In fact, through this interactive session, I would also like the students to start thinking in the way that this session will guide you into. So, by starting to think that way means that you can start thinking of lines which will help you develop certain types of notices, certain types of invitations. For example, you could have lines which are popular, you could have lines which will summarize so much into them, you could have a motto at the end, you could have a note to add at the end. So, there are so many things in short pieces of writing which can be done beforehand. It is not then and there in the examination hall that you set the ball rolling and you just keep thinking, oh my God, if I just could begin this writing, I would be somewhere, I would be able to do a very good piece of writing, but how do I begin it? So, this session should answer to these questions that are already in your mind. So, we can have these tips for short pieces of writing as well as for long pieces of writing. So, does that answer the question, Renu?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. So, shall we begin, children?
Sure, ma'am.
And well, the audience would be eager to see what we have been talking about for so long. So, as you can see on the screen, today the writing task that we are going to take is article writing. Well, what lines can we learn from home, or what lines can become a part of our lives to enable us to write an article? Now, you can see that the essential part of writing an article is the proper division of this particular writing skill. So, how do we divide the article? Well, an article should be into paragraphs, or what should be the sequence. So, here I have in very brief explained how we can divide any article. Articles can be divided in 3 parts. By 3 parts, I mean 3 paragraphs. Now, how do you begin writing an article? You usually start with what the whole thing is all about. What is it about that you're talking? What is the topic? So, an explanation of the topic and its impact, right? So, the slight impact that we will just include in the first paragraph. So, we would like to call this paragraph what? By what, I mean, what are we talking about? As you can see on the screens, The second part is so what? So what happens when we have a set of problems, when we have an issue in front of us? What happens after that? In other words, this part also deals with the consequences of that particular topic. So, first paragraph is essentially about what are we talking about. The second paragraph is so what. The third paragraph and the conclusive paragraph can also be termed as now what. Now what is going to deal with solutions. So, by solutions I mean no piece of writing is complete until and unless we talk about some workable solutions about it. So, it is good to talk about problems. It is also good to talk about the consequences of a problem, but it is incomplete to leave the piece of writing without talking about what are the solutions to the problem. So, I like to call it now what. A little bit of a review of the three paragraphs: what, so what, and now what. Going on to the next slide, you can all see that I have some tips here to use to write paragraph 1. When I say paragraph 1, I would like to remind you all I am talking about what. So, we have topics like polythenes, garbage disposal, we have topics like child labor, we have environment related topics like global warming, we have social topics like, as I already said, child labor and education of children, we have gender bias, and we have so many common topics around us. So, can we say and can we begin our article with, as we move ahead in the 21st century, we are confronted with problems like dash. Why have I put a dash there? Because I like to treat this opening of para 1 as a common opening for so many topics. Now, let us try to copy it for these different topics. For example, if we are going to talk about polythenes are a menace, let us see if it fits into the line. So, as we move ahead in the 21st century, we are confronted with problems like garbage disposal or excessive use of polythenes. That is how you fill in the blank. So, from home children, you can learn that this is the line I am going to use as a starting line, and then I am going to develop the paragraph about the article about the particular problem that is in question. Another way of starting is at the outset, it may be stated that, or it can be stated that. Now, the meaning of the word outset is as we begin, it can be stated. Yeah, I would like to state that, and then there's again a blank over there. Now, this is, giving you a kind of a push to reach the topic. Put it in the blank. Please do not treat this as a fill in the blank. This is just a clue for you that here you need to write from the question. Now, the kind of question asked is going to reflect in the fill in the blank. In part 3, you see, it is deplorable that. Deplorable, there is a dislike about it. So, it is not a positive word. So, also when you look at these lines and you get stuck about the meaning of a word, try to puzzle it out. Obviously, deplorable would not have a positive meaning. It would have something to do with something which is wrong with our environment, with our society, with our immediate surroundings. The next line, I feel greatly perturbed about the fact that. What do you mean by perturbed? Perturbed means to feel upset or to feel disturbed about something. Now, when we talk about the different topics under article writing, we notice that we are usually asked questions about either about a social problem like too much of use of substance abuse, or it could be about eating junk food. It could also be related to, topics like not eating from the vendors who are selling cut fruits on the roads. So, it could be covered under the header of health, environment, education, tourism, sports. These are 4 or 5 major categories. Now, you can sit and give it a thought. Well, are there other categories to this? Can we also get articles related from other spheres or background? Well, just give it a thought and try to make these lines your own lines, right? So, you can always give it a thought that if I get a topic about something different from this. So, for example, I just spoke about junk food. So, as we move ahead in the 21st century, we are confronted with problems like excessive indulgence in junk food, or problems like children eating a lot of junk food, or children not participating in games, children glued to television. So, if you see, this line is going to be appropriate and quite usable to begin your article, right? Now, look at the last line. It says, in today's scenario, it is apt to say that. Apt or appropriate have the same meaning. In today's scenario means the scenario around you, the environment around you, the social setup around you, anything which surrounds you as a scene is a scenario. So, you could say, in today's scenario, it is apt to say that, and then you could just fill it up using the language of the question or the particular question asked. So, all these lines are about the first paragraph, which is about what? What is the topic? This is going to help you open your article writing. Once you have become comfortable with the pen, and once you have filled in the blank, ideas will just come rushing in, and it will be much more easy to do the rest. Well, try to define the particular topic. Suppose the topic is about pollution. So, I am trying to take different topics like polythenes, like garbage disposal, like environment, like junk food. This is what is so much into everyday talk. All these things are, we deal with these things, isn't it, Renu?
Yes,
we deal with all these things on a day-to-day basis. We talk about garbage disposal. It's so much around us when we see the blue bins and the green bins. So, as we move ahead in the 21st century, we are confronted with problems like improper disposal of garbage, or for example, excessive indulgence in junk food, or for example, pollution for that matter. Now, a word of advice for all the viewers. When we talk about pollution, well, there is a way of writing answers in English, and there is a way of writing answers in other subjects like geography, biology, etc., etc. When we talk about pollution, well, in geography also you could be asked to write about pollution, isn't it? We have such questions under biology also, right? So, what happens is, how do we differentiate between a question asked in geography and a question asked in English? When we write in English, always remember, dear viewers, that we are awarded marks according to content, accuracy and fluency. Content means how much of, how many points have we covered, how much content, how effective is the content. Have we covered all the aspects of pollution? Have we been able to talk about all the types of pollution? So, that will be categorized under content. When we say accuracy, it is the correct use of language, the sentence structure, etc., etc. And when we come to fluency, it's all about expression. So, one could say that pollution is any unwanted change in the environment may be termed as pollution, right? This is how any answer related to pollution would begin. But my question here is, what happens to the expression? This is an answer good enough for geography, good enough for biology, But if we have to answer the same in English, well, we have to make the language a little more literary and little full of expressions. So, just for example, we could say, no, the shape of pollution is just like that of an octopus, spreading its tentacles in multiple directions, ready to devour us. We must nail it down before it does so. So, does it sound different to you?
Very much creative and dramatic, we can say.
Yeah, it is, yes, definitely there's an element of drama to it. But you know, talking of pollution can be in black and white straight away, and it can be very, very flowery, it can be very, very beautified. So, that is how we beautify language. So, talking of pollution, but talking it in such different ways. So, the last line that we have is apt to say that, you know, the shape of pollution is just like that of an octopus. Like, for example, if we have to talk about the environment, we could say, Earth is the only habitable planet. We must try to increase our tenancy here. We are tenants. We are not the landowners. We have to leave it for the next generation. So, Earth is the only habitable planet. We need to increase our tenancy here, else we will cease to exist. Now, how good does this sound to you? So, children, you have to, viewers, it is, you know, there is no end to it. You can just keep adding to things. You can have these kind of lines for pollution. You could have them for, you know, nature. You could have them for Earth as a habitable planet. Then you could have it for food. You could have it for health. You could have it for sports. So, you could have your own set of lines. So, what you see on the screen is not the end, but the beginning. You have to remember that here the thinking skills also get involved, and you have to think of such lines before going to write an exam. So, to be able to talk fluently about anything like pollution or garbage disposal or about, you know, any topic under the sun, you've got to have this kind of fluency. And what do you get in class 12 exams for being fluent? Well, you get awarded good marks. So, that's about the first paragraph. Here you have lines for para 2. So, what is para 2 all about? In case you have just joined us or in case you have forgotten, let me take you back a little. Every article can be divided into 3 parts: what, so what, and now what. So, we have already talked about what means, what is it that we are going to talk about. It had an opening line. Now, for para 2, we have some lines here, and para 2 is all about what are the consequences. The topics that we have been talking about have been like it is health, it could come under the category of environment, tourism, etc. It could be sports, it could be education. So, when you write para 2, you write about the consequences. So, you have already stated in para 1 that what is the problem. So, what is happening because of excessive use of polythenes? How are they disposed of? You either throw them in the water bodies or you know, just let them, leave them as litter on the roads. So, what happens? An animal just, you know, happens to swallow it and get suffocated, right? What happens to the water bodies when we throw polythenes in them? They just get choked. What happens to a polythene if we try to burn it? It produces toxins and it just makes the air so unhealthy. What happens to a polythene when we put it anywhere in a field? Well, it does not degrade. With years, it is still lying there, and for years and years to come, it will reduce the fertility of the soil, right? So, all this is happening, and what is this, where are all these points going to be? These are going to be a part of para 2, which talks about the consequences of what, means what the topic is all about. So, when we talk about the consequences, we all have some points in our, here we can think about some points. So in our head we can think of, well, about, I can talk about animals, I can talk about water bodies, I can talk about soil, I can talk about how it pollutes the water and the how it is very dangerous for animals. So after having done that, well, some of you may think of 2 points, some others may think of 3 points. So here is some language which you can use. Look at line 1. This increasing evil is digging into the roots of society. Now when we talk of society, well, please take the hint that we are going to talk about a social topic, a topic which is related to society. For example, the literacy level among girls, infanticide or feticide, sending the old people in old age homes. So these are increasing evils around us. So as I am, taking one topic and then going on to the next, obviously for writing section you have to keep your mind open. You have to keep thinking that this is not the only topic I am going to prepare myself for. It could be child labor, it could be junk food, well, it could be pollution, it could be anything under the sky. So this first sentence is more usable, it's more applicable to topics which relate to society and our surroundings. The next one also will go for to support the similar topics. It is a slur on civilization. So it is a slur means that it is a spot. It's a dark spot on civilization. Killing the girl child, not sending the girl child to schools. Now these are evils which we have been hearing about in the past, and even today we have so many social evils if you look around yourself. So just like we used to talk about the dowry system, which used to be a social evil, we can talk of extravagance during wedding seasons. How we just spend without giving it a thought. Right. So what do? These kind of evils are digging into the roots of society, means that they are making the society, they are making it weak all the time, because if you dig the roots of something, well, the plant becomes lifeless. It's a slur on civilization also is a kind of an expression which would say that it is not good for the human civilization. It's a dark spot. The third line is more universal. It says, warning bells are ringing aloud. Well, the right punctuation should have been an exclamation mark. But what does it mean to say? I think the meaning is very, very easy and clear to understand, that because we have all these things, because we are throwing polythenes in the water bodies, and we are actually causing so much of choking of the water bodies, suffocating the animals when they just happen to swallow the polythene, or probably when we are just trying to burn it, then also we are causing so much of damage by producing those toxins. For all these reasons, we can just sum it up and say, warning bells are ringing aloud. Do they sound as warning bells to you all? Yeah, Renu?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it sound as a warning bell?
Yes,
so it's a common line. We could also use it while a conversation is going on. These are warning bells.
Right.
We need to awaken. The next line, for example, something needs to be done. So you have to show your desperation about a topic which is related to society, a topic which is related to environment, to health. As I've been repeating so often, well, these are the headers from where we usually expect the topics under the writing section. So something needs to be done. So, when you say something needs to be done, you are sounding desperate. You actually feel that there's something gross, very, very wrong going on around you, and you want a solution to it. The next one is, we must nail it down before it becomes uncontrollable, because if you just let a situation go, one day it's going to happen that it becomes uncontrollable and you can't actually do anything about it. So right now, we, as in English we say, should catch them young, right? So catching them young means, talking to children who are our viewers, right, and they are connected with us. So you are the, the future of on this earth, you are going to create the future. So not only do these lines actually help you pass a test or score better in the writing section, but these lines are also very, very important to make them part of your lifestyle and a part of your system, and absorb them so much that you become a responsible human being, always thinking that this is like digging into the roots of society. It's a black spot on the civilization. We are all heading towards a disaster. Now, over the period of years, Renu, I've noticed that there's so much change. You know, when we travel in the metro, people don't spit. They don't throw garbage around. Why? Because, well, one, because there are rules and regulations. Another, because schooling of children, education as a matter of fact has become so effective that the children who actually used to burst so many crackers on Diwali, and there's a noticeable change. No? So, do you see changes in your environment?
A lot of changes is happening, ma'am, and the main point is that we are getting educated and we are getting literacy that this particular thing is not good for our health or for our environment, so that our young generation is moving towards a positive path, I would say.
A better tomorrow, yes, definitely. So, we see, you know, that children don't like to leave the lights switched on all the time. So, when they leave the room, they just try to switch it off. Well, when they see water just flowing, I don't think, you know, that children who are going to school and, you know, who have become sensitive to these things, I don't think they just leave the tap open while they are brushing their teeth.
Exactly.
So, it has become a part of the system. Yes. So, they don't throw garbage on the metro stations. Of course, it's a rule, but also because, you know, they are being taught all these things. And when I say these kind of lines, well, do not just, you know, put them in a watertight compartment that these are the lines. I have to learn them, open my copy just one day before the writing exam. And, you know, just because my ma'am has told me to do a writing on a particular topic, I'll open these lines and, you know, I'll just take and jot down something from there. I would actually love it, and I would really appreciate if we all make these lines a part of our day-to-day systems, a part of our behavior, and our whole personality reflects these things, and we do not actually, you know, just do them for a formality, right? So, as you see, let us go on to the next line. So, something needs to be done is the voice coming from, you know, within, from the heart, that I really feel something has to be done. And because you are the future of tomorrow, well, you can just make the start any time without thinking that, you know, if I save a drop of water, how is it going to make a difference? But that makes a world of a difference, because, you know, that one dripping tap in a particular time period, for say, for example, if you just leave a tap dripping for about 3-4 hours, well, you waste 15 liters of water. So, if you look at it like that, you know, with every drop, well, you must have read it in Hindi also, boon boon se ghada bharta hai, and then saving each drop means a lot. Now, next line, which is line number 6, is we must nail it down before it becomes uncontrollable. To nail down a problem means that we just control it, we just stop it, we just put a standstill on it. So, we must nail it down. To nail it down would also means to tackle it. Let's try to find a solution to it before it becomes uncontrollable, because see, global warming is a reality. There's such a change of difference in weather. Well, we are experiencing it all the time. You know, this kind of rainfall, this kind of heat, this kind of winter was not experienced in the past, and it's all, you know, increasing with every passing year. Why? As a result of global warming. So, before these kind of things become a reality, they are already a reality, but before they become uncontrollable, we have to put a stop somewhere, and it is only within us to do that. The next line is, we must remember, just like I shared a line with you on pollution, that the shape of pollution is just like that of an octopus, you know, spreading its tentacles in multiple directions, ready to devour us. We have a similar line about the Mother Earth. Let's read the line together. We must remember that Earth is the only habitable planet. Only habitable planet means it is not possible to live on Jupiter or on Saturn or on Venus. Earth is the only habitable planet. We must try to increase our tenancy here. Tenancy. The word tenancy means that we are not permanent here. We are all tenants. See, we have to leave for the coming generations and go.
Right.
So we are all, tenants on this habitable planet Earth. So we must try to, at least try, right? And this kind of trial does not go waste. We must try to increase our tenancy here, otherwise we will cease to exist. By cease to exist, we mean that we will die. We will not be able to exist anymore. Now, when we say we must remember that Earth is the only habitable planet, well, break it into simpler parts if you find the line a little long. You could have a full stop after habitable planet, and then you could say we must try to increase our tenancy here, full stop. We will cease to exist, another full stop. This is how you can break down the lines into simpler parts, and you can just, it's not about rote learning, I would like to add here. Just make them a part of your system. Just like you say good morning, good evening, you could say warning bells are ringing aloud on a matter of, daily practice. This is another line which we could add here, which is not on the screen, but just would like to mention it here. We need to pause and ponder. P-A-U-S-E, pause, and ponder, P-O-N-D-E-R. By ponder I mean think. So we need to pause and ponder means we need to stop and think. Do we need to introspect about these things? Do we actually need to see that there's so much of degradation happening around us? And when you actually talk to yourself about these things, yes, many things need to be taken care of. So that was all about para 2. So para 1 is what? Para 2 is so what? And the third paragraph here on the screen is now what? So that is our para 3, and as I mentioned in the session earlier, that no piece of writing is complete without a workable solution. When I say workable solution, I mean that the concluding paragraph should have some kind of workable solutions and ideas or some encouragement for the reader. So whosoever is reading the article should not be left thinking, oh my God, the situation is so bad, warning bells are ringing aloud, something needs to be done, but what do I do?
Right.
Exactly. And most of the time, when we see these answer scripts by children, most of the time they say, well, rules should be made. So Renu, sometimes I think, there are rules for everything. There are rules for everything. There are, we have rules, we have rights, we have responsibilities, but we have not been able to actually go there. You should always say that rules need to be practiced and implemented. Yeah. That's such a nice word you made use of, implemented. Yeah. So rules need to be implemented because we already have rules. Do you think that, in a country like India, there are rules for everything? It is not that we are lacking in rules, but we are lacking in the implementation of rules, and actually we as individuals need to understand that, in fact, that is the first line on your screens, that the problem is man-made, so the solution lies with the individual. I will give you a second to think, not a second, like 10 seconds to think. Just think of a problem that is not man-made.
So dear learner, you need to think, and if you have any query, feel free to connect to us. You can comment in our YouTube channel, that is NCERT Official.
So, you had your thinking time. Wear your thinking hats and think. Is there any problem which is not made by man? It is all man-made, isn't it?
Exactly.
If global warming is happening, if toxins in the environment are happening, if, problems like cancer, diseases are increasing, well, who is to blame? Nothing but man
we
himself.
only, yeah.
So the problem is man-made. So the solution lies with the individual, could be the opening line of para 3. Because see, the problem is man-made. So for example, let us talk about the pollution around us. Let us talk about toxins in the air. Let us talk about a lot of residual in the air, right? So what is the solution? Is using public transport a good solution to that?
Yeah.
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 So the man-made problem is pollution. We could use public transport. We could use eco-friendly fuel. We have electric cars and vehicles. We could use those electric vehicles to control the pollution around us.
Exactly.
Isn't it? And that is how the second line also becomes very, very relevant. It says, every dark cloud has a silver lining. So if a dark cloud here, viewers, is symbolic of despair, which is lack of hope. There is no hope. But if you look at the second part, the silver lining means there still is hope. So the dark cloud is pollution, but the silver lining is public transport. The silver lining is the use of carpools, walking down. The silver lining is using eco-friendly fuel. So every dark cloud has a silver lining. The problem is man-made. The solution lies within us or with the individual, and every dark cloud. So we cannot say that, there is no hope for us. Where are we going? What are we doing? So end with such logical lines like, we must try to become the torch bearers of a better tomorrow. The torch bearers of a better tomorrow means, how is our tomorrow? Tomorrow here means the future. The torch bearers of a better tomorrow means that let us become let us welcome a great future. Torch bearers are people who are the beginners. They will start. They are the torch bearers. Just like in the Olympics, you see there are torch bearers. So they just inaugurate the whole event. They inaugurate the whole sports event. So we have to become the torch bearers, and the next line is so related. We must remember that charity begins at home. It is, be the change that you want to see around yourself. So charity begins at home. Let it start with me. And then I can be expecting people to do it. It is noteworthy that it is the need of the hour that are more lines added to the last paragraph. It is noteworthy means we need to note. It is worthy of our note. We must notice that every, these kind of problems have a solution, a workable solution. The need of the hour means that we need to do this today. We do need to do it now. So that is how we use the lines for para 3. So the third paragraph, as you can see, is going to be the conclusive part. So always conclude your article writing at a positive note. Give a workable solution. Don't give solutions which are not workable. So don't give, just don't talk in the air that we should follow all the rules. And then just don't go talking about the rules. Rules are there. We must follow it. I must follow it first. Rather than saying I need to follow those rules.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm quite sure our learners have learned a lot from all those paras and the tips. Here I have some question, ma'am, for you. If we talk about the article writing, what exactly the correct format to follow to write an article, ma'am?
So children fret a lot about the formats, Renu. So the last moment, we get so many queries from our students that, ma'am, what is the format for letter writing? Oh my God, what is the format for notice writing? What is the format for invitation writing? And all of those questions come up during the last few, those very, very anxious moments of the students. Well, understand what is a format. Format means when we write a letter, when you started writing letters at as early as, class 5 or 6, that is the age when children start to write applications, right? So the format is nothing to be afraid of. You need not to be scared of it. It is just, that we start with the address and followed by the date, and we have two addresses, the address of the addressee and the person who's addressed, and then we have a subject line. Well, that is the format of a letter. So nothing to be scared about. An article should have a very, very simple format of it could be the title of the article and the person who has written the article. So if it is for the school magazine, well, the title and then by the name, which obviously needs a little care, that the child should go to the question, revisit the question, just see who is supposed to write the article and what is the article all about. Well, that is the format of the article, the title and who is writing the article is a complete format. And then obviously the logical division. So you see that it is not a formula. Whatever session you have attended today, it's not teaching formulae to children. It's about a very, very logical sequencing. When you start writing with what you are writing about. Then write the consequences. Do not go back to the consequences or the definitions or the description of the topic after you have started writing para 2. Then just talk about the consequences. In the last part, just talk about solutions. So you will never go wrong. I mean, this is also part of the format only, that you have to follow the right sequence.
They have to follow a sequence. Randomly, they can't write anything, right?
Because very often, this is one problem, that children often remember at a later stage, oh my God, I did not, write that point. I've forgotten that point. And can I write it now? So they feel too tempted. So just use the, maybe the side of the answer script or where you are writing to add that point there, but it should be in the related paragraph. Yeah.
Okay. So, ma'am, is there any word limit for an article?
Yeah. See, when we talk of articles in a school magazine or in the newspaper, well, there is a limit to it everywhere. We just can't go on and on and on. So, if we have stated the first part, which is about what are we writing about, then that should, we should time it, we should be able to write it in about 50 words or so. If we have too many points in para 2, well, that could be maybe about 60 to 70 words. We could reduce the number of words in para 1 because that is just the introduction. And then the last paragraph, where we also talk about the solutions. Well, if you have more solutions, you can just devote a little more time to that part. So it is about 100 to 150 words. See, expression is endless, and we do not like to stop when we have so much to talk about. But then we have to be precise. How can we check the word limit? That is also one very important point, Children usually repeat a lot of things.
Exactly.
They have already stated a point. They talk about it once again in a different language, and they don't see that sometimes they indulge in so much of giving examples. For example, when I talked about polythenes and how to dispose them off, then we talked about choking of the water bodies. So the children start building up stories there. So once upon a time a man just threw the polythene and it just floated for some time and then it choked the water body. I'm just explaining. But children do get waylaid. They just go with the flow. So sometimes the expressions in their head are so strong that they don't check themselves. So when it comes to the second paragraph, just list a few consequences, which are obviously they are limited. We can always limit them to 3 or 4 or 5. So many times for article writing, we get the verbal input. So by verbal input, I mean that the question itself has some points. You have seen that there is a lot of garbage on the roads and people just litter, they do not behave responsibly. The gardens have become, there are heaps of garbage lying in the gardens. So this kind of verbal input is also given in the questions. So make use of that also. Just design it in such a way that you can just put, in a longer sentence, you can just use commas. But again, to conclude, yes, article writing should be within the word limit of about 100 to 150 words. How do you check your limit if you are exceeding it? Just time it out. The first paragraph should not have more than 40 words, 30 to 40 words. That should explain what you are talking about. The consequences usually are a little long, so you could have a longer, like 70 words there, and the rest of it for the conclusion. I would say the conclusion should be the most effective. So all that the best of it that you can write, should be a part of the third paragraph.
Ma'am, you have shown us few lines in para 1, para 2 and para 3 and you explained them very beautifully. I just wanted to know, can one student use all those lines in a particular article or in a para, or they can use it according to their requirement, ma'am?
So for example, see, if you are writing a report or probably if you are writing a debate, see, there is no line of discrimination between when you are talking of expression. So when we talk of good expression, well, the barriers break. You know, when you talk about a notice writing, for example.
Ma'am, here I am stopping you, I am interrupting you. Let me tell you that we have only 4 more minutes left for this session,
we are
ma'am.
just, I really wish we have more queries on this session by our viewers, but then just I would like to conclude that when we write notices, and I shared a line with you about the Mother Earth, that Earth is the only habitable planet and we must try to increase our tenancy here. Well, this could be part of a notice when we are talking of celebrating the World Environment Day, right? Or probably, you know, you get notices for topics like tree plantation, planting trees. So we could say Earth is the only habitable planet, or we must try to increase our tenancy on this habitable planet. Let us come together to plant trees on this date at this time. Maybe we can have other sessions for notice writing, just like today we had a session for article writing, and maybe we can discuss these things there, looking at the, you know, the time limit, etc. So this is how there is language has no you know, particularly language cannot be constructed for one thing and not for the other. So if you have something in front of you, just try to make a beautiful use of that line anywhere. Just try to fit it in while you are talking, while you are writing, while you are thinking. So in your head also you could be saying, oh my God, we are heading towards a disaster. What's happening to this air? Every time I, you know, go out, I feel like coming back inside the safety of the house. So well, you can just, they can become a part of your system, as I said earlier.
Right. Yeah. So ma'am, would you like to add something, as we have 1 more minute left? Would you like to say something to all our viewers and learners so that they can keep in their mind any other tip or something?
So the purpose of this writing section, viewers, is not that we are going to test you about how you write. It's also about making you sensitive human beings, as I have added earlier also, that we all need to feel the immediate need to look around in our environment and see that how we are responsible for the ruckus that we have created, and also that how well we can, you know, still control it. It is well within our limits. We can still have the chance of, you know, doing something about it. And these are very, very small workable solutions. The use of solar light, switching off the lights when they are not in use, you know, just not using the tap excessively, and when it is not needed, maybe, you know, recycling the water that we have used. So with these small, very, very small tips, all this can become a part of our system and a part of our personality. Yeah.
Right. And thank you so very much, Charu ma'am, for being with us and for this very wonderful session. Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me, and all the best to my viewers to continue doing good things around you and be responsible citizens, and we definitely will make it. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, we will make it. And dear learners, I have to wrap up this session here only, but you stay tuned to eVidya channels and NCERT official for more informative program. But before I leave, let me share a very important piece of information with you all regarding India's G20 presidency. We are indeed very proud that India assumed G20 presidency and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in the country in 2023. A nation that deeply committed to democracy and multilateralism, India's G20 presidency would be a watershed moment in her history as it seeks to play an important role by finding pragmatic global solutions for the well-being of all. And in doing so, manifest the true spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or we can say the whole world is one family. With that very important piece of information, me, Renu Bhatt, is taking your leave. You stay tuned to all eVidya channels and NCERT official YouTube channel for more informative program. Namaskar.